Hey, what's up everyone, Johnny the Geek here. Welcome to this video on the budget PC case swap. I know that the Battle of Budget PCs video is long overdue and one of these machines would be considered obsolete, but at least you could still find all these parts online at a reasonable price in some areas. So some of you pointed out that I wasted my money on getting such a big case for a micro ATX sized motherboard, but in my defense, I was looking for a case that's less than $40 that looked decent. It's actually hard to find these ATX size cases from Deepcool nowadays, so I went with something just as cheap but a little more aesthetically pleasing, and that is the Cooler Master Mastercase 3.1, coming in at $35 with a $15 mail-in rebate. This case should be easier to find in stock somewhere, but your pricing may vary. Just know that it's possible to find them at less than $40-ish. So if you haven't checked out the build videos I did for these two systems yet, that's okay because I've made some significant changes. So I'll go over what is going into these systems for the final showdown, starting with the AMD PC. For the motherboard, I'm using the MSI B350M Gaming Pro, and that's from Amazon for 70 bucks, although you could find it for $60 if you really shop around. For the CPU, it's the AMD Ryzen 3 1200, and I've seen this on eBay as low as $90, and that's eBay from retail stores such as Newegg or actually used, but normal price for the CPU is about $109, but like I said, I've seen it gone down to 90 bucks, and that's what I actually paid for. And let's talk about the RAM situation. So originally in these systems, I paid a lot less for RAM, like around half the price, but today for an 8 gig stick, no matter where you look, it's gonna be around $100. So that's just what it's gonna be. It doesn't even matter where you're at, whatever state or country you're in, they're gonna be expensive. So 100 bucks, 8 gigs of RAM. And then for the power supply, I'm using the AVGA 450 BT from Amazon, and I've seen that as low as $20, and that's what I actually paid for. I've actually seen some for $20 with a $10 mail-in rebate, making it just $10 for a 450 watt power supply from AVGA. That's a crazy good deal. But in this system, it's 20 bucks. And then moving on to the storage, I've changed this over from an SSD to a solid state hard drive. It's a hybrid drive, and this is the Seagate Firecuda 2 terabyte. Now on Amazon, a regular price, it's going to be about $90, 90 to 100 bucks, but I've got this on sale before Black Friday and on Black Friday for 65 bucks, and so this is near SSD speeds. I don't want to say it's close to it, but it's in between a hard drive and an SSD, so it's good enough, and it's plenty of space, 2 terabytes. Most likely you're gonna be able to find a 1 terabyte for around $65 to $75. You can go ahead and get that if you want also, but the 2 terabyte I would recommend because it's gonna be a little bit faster because it's 7,200 RPM versus the 5,400 RPM drive on the 1 terabyte model. And it's a notebook size drive, so just keep that in mind. Although many of these cases and many of these systems, it doesn't have to go into a notebook, it could go into a regular desktop if you wanted, so be sure to check that out. And then moving on to the graphics card. Now this is very controversial because there are newer models out right now, but there's a reason why I went with the Gigabyte RX 460 4 gigabyte. Yes, it's 460 and it's a 4 gigabyte model. Why? Because on the Intel side, and I'll get to that later, I used a 4 gigabyte 1050 Ti card, and so I'm using a 4 gigabyte AMD RX 460 card. And this also requires no external power, so I don't need a PCI power cord for this graphics card, and that's the same on the on the Nvidia side. So that's why we have this particular card, and it's on Amazon right now for about $120 to $130. I paid $120 for it. Now, last but not least is the case, and the case we're using is the Cooler Master Mastercase 3.1, and I picked this up from Newegg for $35 with a $15 mail-in rebate, making it a $20 case, which is an amazing good deal. And it's going to be relatively easier to find in most places. The regular price is $40 full retail, but most likely you're going to be seeing them on sale with or without a rebate for about $35. Alright, so quickly on to the Intel PC. Not a whole lot is going to be different on here. The real difference is only the motherboard and the CPU, to be honest. And so the motherboard, we're rocking the MSI B250 Pro from Amazon. That was $57. And then the CPU is the Intel 4560, and that was $83. Although, honestly, you should get the 4600 because it's just a few dollars more, like $5 more, and you get another 100 megahertz out of it. It's a newer, kind of more refined model, so go ahead and get that. And then everything else, the RAM, power supply, the hard drive, is all the same. The only last thing that's not the same is the graphics card, and we're rolling with a Gigabyte 1050 Ti 4GB model. And again, like I said earlier, it has no external power for the GPU, and this was $150 on Amazon. Although if you want to get, since you're only doing 1080p, you don't really need these 4 gig models. If you find 2 gig models that's cheaper, that's perfectly fine for 1080p gaming. I just happen to find these at good deals for the 4 gig models that was the same price as a 2 gig model. So I ended up getting the 4 gig instead, and I wanted to make sure that these didn't have external power because just the timing, if I were to compare a 1050 Ti to a 560, I don't think it's fair because the 560 is newer and the 1050 Ti was older, and you know, I just wanted to get 2 cards that came out relatively the same time, that has the same VRAM configuration, and then that requires, you know, with or without power, and both of them have no power. So trying to keep it the same as possible. They're even both Gigabyte, made from the same company. So hopefully you found this video to be useful. Again, the video after this is going to be benchmarking some games. Stay tuned for like a poll on what games, or just look down in the description as to what games I'll be trying or testing these systems out on. Be sure to subscribe for more if you haven't already. And as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.